Okay, so I got the coil assembly put back in, and as you can see, like I said, I lined up like my lead with my push terminal, so it's shimmed back in the, same way. Again, like I said, you don't have to do that. It's just something I've always done. And I've got it clamped back into place. As you can see, I went back and I reinforced all this. So what I'm going to do now is going to go ahead and fit the cone on top of the assembly. And again, like I said, I got my leads taped up, out of the way. That way they'll come up through the cone and everything. So what I'm going to do is take the cone, slide it in place. And then I'm going around and make sure all my holes are lined up good. I'm going to make sure that, like I said, that, where the bolt holes go in the basket is lined up with the cutouts in the surround there. And seems like it all lines up, really good. So at that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and clamp the surround down. I want to make sure the cone is set down all the way and it looks good. And I always clamp the surrounds down. That way there's no lifted up spots on the cone itself. That can cause you a little bit of problems later on if it doesn't set, if it doesn't sit flat. When you glue it all in, it could cause the coil to, everything can be off. So I just kind of go around and clamp it down. And I don't have to use a whole lot of clamps at this point, as opposed to when, I'm going to be gluing it into place. I'll have, clamps pretty much all the way around it everywhere. Just kind of want to make sure that it's just sits good and flat. And once I get this done, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put a small bead up here for the cone to the coil. Again, I just like to make sure that everything sets flat. That way you don't run into any problems later on. Well, I'm one clamp short, so just come over here and move these out a little bit. Anyways, so now that I've got that done, what I can do is I can go in here and do my glue up top. Turn my light down a little bit on it. And when I do this glue up here, what I like to do is I like to hit my accelerator from the bottom, kind of help it keep, we'll have to neck the cone out just a little bit, and also for like the leads to come up through. You'll have a little bit of gap there, and you just don't want a lot of it running down onto the top of the spite or anything like that. And this sits pretty close. You can barely see a little bit of light through it all the way around. So, if you have to do that, neck your cone out, and like I showed you in a previous video, if it's a little bit too big, what you can do is you can put like some rope, some thin rope, or some really thick string. You can glue it to the cone and the former there, and put a little bit of lay it down around it until it touches over here, and put your glue bead down, and then you can come back and flood it after that. So Just gonna get everything set up here. And again, I'm just using a thin bead up here just to hold it together, because I'm gonna go back again and flood that with epoxy, like a really good bead there. So I'm just gonna go in a couple of spots here. Like I said, I'm gonna hit it from the bottom and the top, because I don't want it to run down a lot. You don't want it to run through too much. I just want enough in there, just to hold the cone in place to the former there. And like I said, I'll go back and use the epoxy for like a really super secure bond there. And what I do is I don't put any glue like where the leads come up. What I do is once I've got this glued into place with a little bit of CA there, I'll go ahead and pull this back out, and then I'll do the bead where the coil, the cone, and the spider, the triple joint there. I'll put a bead around it, then I'll shim it back in place, and then I'll go ahead and solder up the leads and clip them, and then I'll flood that with epoxy afterwards. Then when I get done doing all of this, and I get it epoxied up, like, I'll pull it apart and show you guys the glue joint there in the next video. Just wanted to make sure that it was all good and sealed up there. So now that I went all the way around it, and it looks pretty good all the way around. So I got 2 leads over here and these 2 over here. I'm gonna go back and put another bead here. I just did it over there, and that way that makes sure that there's no, fills in any gaps and voids, just like I showed you when I did the spider. So that way that it all sets good and flat. And that looks good to me. Alright, so what I'll do next is, well, I'm going to let that dry for about 15-20 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull this assembly back out so I can glue, below, between the cone and the spider in a triple joint there. Like I said, there's only minimal amounts of the former exposed. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Alright, I'll see you next time.